You are listening to Couch Conversations, where we highlight pivotal moments in people's lives when they commit to a new direction, just like the many young people we serve here at Choose 180.
Welcome, Choose 180 community, to our Couch Conversation. Today, I have my dear friend and soldier, Will Jimmerson. Will, I'm excited to have you. One request, no light skin jokes today, okay? I can't deal with them. You get at me all the time. So no light skin jokes today. Let's stick to what you're here for. I'm looking forward to hearing about a pivot moment in your life, brother. So share with me, talk to the community about a pivotal moment in your
life. A pivotal moment in my life, man. I would like to be honest and say there's quite a few, and to kind of like swim through the efforts of figuring out which one to kind of highlight in this moment. The one that I can think of is being honest, having my impact with various systems, and whether they be schools, whether they've been institutions of incarceration. I remember always being a good reader. I can say a good reader or even a great reader. I was able to like pick up and comprehend very well, even in traditional school settings. And when it was time for people to read out loud, I was always the one that pretty much was called upon to be able to carry out that particular task. And but I never really identified or drew a connection or a relationship with the material that I was reading, whether it was in social studies or anything outside of that. I would just literally pretty much being a parrot. I was just mimicking words and sounds without no real elevation of comprehension or any impact on my own life at that moment. And so unfortunately, when I found myself incarcerated as a young person in the juvenile in King County, I had a friend named Leon Richard, who's passed away in 1998. But at this time, we were in the year of, I think, 93, 94. And he was reading this book. And I remember him being wrapped up with the blanket inside the juvenile, kind of like rocking a little bit back and forth and reading this book. And I was bored. And so out of boredom, as a young 12, 13-year-old person at this time, I was just, being a kid and kind of like, making things to do and picking up people, whatever, having fun, stuff that we used to do in our immaturity to have fun. And so I remember trying to, make fun of him like this. Oh, you're reading a book, like, never wanted nobody to know that I was a good reader, right? Mm-hmm. I just want like, hey, we're on this spectrum of, having to come out of these different subgroups and being a part of a certain lifestyle and having a high premium around being an avid or great reader is not on the list of things that you want people to be identified as. So when I seen him reading this book, that was an opportunity for me to pick on him, to have fun and say, hey, here you are reading this book. And he's like, man, the way his response was like, he wasn't shying away from the aspect that he was reading this book, obviously in public, but he also was like, you ain't hip to this. He made me feel like I was the one who was on the losing end, and it stood out for me, right? And I'm talking about something that happened, nearly 27, 28 years ago. I mean, 17 or 18 years ago, I meant to say. How old am I now? I can't even remember how old I am. Anyhow, so he was like, you're not hip to this book. And I'm like, no. And it was, all I remember was the colors. It was blue. Majority of the book was blue, and the lettering was in white. And I remember reading the cover of the book. It really came to my attention when he was like, you're not hip to this particular book. And so the book title was Dope Fiend. And I remember being able to read the word Dope Fiend. And in my mind, that was my actual first time knowing that there was a silent E in the word Dope Fiend. I was able to put I can remember that.
Right.
And I was like, who would write a book called Dope Fiend? And it didn't, I was like, he's like, man, yeah, this is, Donald Goines. And he was like, man, he writes about the streets and the lifestyle and this and that. So when I went to the library, prior to that, I had nothing to really go look for in the library. Other than when I was in the library, I would go, at that time they had cassette tapes. I'll stick the cassette tape in the machine and just sit back and just listen and, look at the magazines, the lowrider magazines or whatever the source magazines they offered. And so I had nothing really to go, you know, to research or to pull out as far as for reading beyond just going in the library and doing those little things right there. And so I ended up going to the library, and now I had something to go look for it, and I went to go look for a Donald Goines book. They didn't have the book that I was looking for, which was Delphine, because they had other copies that were already checked out. So I ended up getting the book Daddy Cool by Donald Goines.
Sure.
And I remember going into the sale, and it was I remember our shift change period was a 30-minute shift change period at that time, which felt like forever, to be honest with you. But I remember reading those 200 and something plus pages within those 30 minutes. And I was angry, man. I was upset, not like violently angry, but I was so mad that I finished this book because it was that good. And I remember those 30 minutes feeling like 30 hours waiting for the shift change so we can get back out of the sale, because that is a very tormenting thing, you know, to be isolated, to be inside the cell. And I remember that 30 minutes, it just seemed like a very long time. But for some reason, I swear when shift change came, I didn't leave because I was at the end of the book, and I was upset of how the book ended. And I'm calling that a pivotal, critical moment in my life, because I fell in love with reading. And I did not know that there was anyone out there in terms of an author, a particular literary scholar, or whatever you want to call Donald Goines, or any other literary scholar, that it raised up an interest of me just having a thirst and a desire to want to learn. And when I did that, I was able to read dictionaries and define words and started using phrases. And what it did, it helped to morph my style of writing as well. And then it led me into other different aspects of reading, because it was just a foundational component for me to move forward. And that's what's inspiring me now today to write a book around a few nuggets, because I'm thinking about that other young person like me who needed that, and who probably are looking for that right now and may not have it. So I'm like, hey, step up in that and fill in that particular gap. So that was a critical, pivotal moment for me.
Man, well, you know what I love most about your life is that it's full of pivotal moments, but the one you pulled out in particular speaks volumes to the young people who we serve, that regardless of where you are, inside, outside, at home, on the block, there's no time like the present to really lean into who you are and not just who you've been told to be. And you knew that you were a reader, an avid reader, that you were a smart young man, but that wasn't glamorized or glorified in the places that you had put yourself in. But you found yourself in a place that you didn't want to be in, but found release in that place by leaning into the skill sets and talents that you had the whole entire time. What a principle for our young folks and our community to hold on to. Like, there's no time like the present to lean into who you are and begin to fully engage your potential and your possibility, because you might start out by reading your favorite author, and before you know it, you're authoring a book and becoming a favorite author of a young person and community. Brother Jimerson, I love you, man. I'm grateful for you. We made it this entire couch conversation without one light-skinned joke. And for that, I owe you a bunch, man. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to tapping in with you later, brother. Take care now, okay?
All right. Peace, power, and love.
All right, man.